Welcome to the second edition of Page 9, where we'll be delving into our 8-page print edition, going beyond the headlines to bring you the story behind the story. In this week's issue, Assistant Culture Editor Morgan Baskin takes us from the People's Climate March in New York City to the halls of the D.C. Council. There, a group called D.C. Divest is lobbying legislators to rid city pension funds of $35 million in fossil fuel investments. So, Morgan, DC Divest drawing more than 100,000 people for the climate rally in New York. What's the thinking behind that? Where's the connection here? How does a DC focus group help itself by taking to the streets of New York?
Sure. So DC Divest is just one of thousands of organizations, businesses, labor unions that participated in the People's Climate March. It was the largest climate demonstration in American history. So really the purpose there for DC Divest, they wanted to look for political momentum from the rally.
Right. So it's 100,000 people, like just a completely massive rally. And you had people also, GW students went there, I believe, and you had this alum who's actually the senior campaigner at DC Divest. Tell us a little bit more about the reporting side of the story. I know you worked on it for a long time. How did you meet this alum, and what kind of turned you onto this story?
Sure. So back in March, I'd actually had a discussion with one of my friends who goes to Northeastern, and he's the president of their fossil-free divestment campaign. Just showing this really is a national...
Yeah, it's hitting a whole bunch of different campuses,
It
right?
really is a national movement, been going on for a couple of years. So I started digging into the story, tried to look and see what groups in DC were doing. And Fossil Free GW is the main fossil fuel divestment campaign that's going on campus. And the president, Kyla Lang, turned me on to DC Divest because they've been working really closely with each other among other organizations and universities in the city to try to pass this divestment bill. So from there, it was really just a matter of meeting these thousands of people who've really all been working together.
But there's also a little bit of a head scratcher in this story. There's a lot of support for this bill, it seems, in DC government, or at least like no real opposition. But now the man who put the divestment legislation on the council floor, Councilman Phil Mendelson, he's stalling after hearing a lot of grumblings from the retirement board in the city. So take us into the counter-argument here. Why should DC not divest from fossil fuels?
A lot of people don't want to divest, and not just Chairman Mendelson, is that a lot of people are afraid that if you divest from these companies, which are obviously multi-billion-dollar companies, they're very profitable, that it'll slow down the growth of the investment portfolios for the university or the organization that's invested.
Right. That's the part that a lot of other places are talking about. But in DC, only 35 million of 6.5 billion with a B total pension portfolio, that's fossil fuels, right?
Exactly. It's a very small portion of the fund. And the purpose isn't really to harm financially these companies like Shell, Exxon, Mobil. They're multi-billion-dollar companies. They wouldn't be impacted.
Right.
The purpose is really to send a social message to make it clear that people are opposed to the very basic morals and practices of these businesses.
Right. And how could a vote on DC divestment affect GW? Like, could this really trickle down to GW if there were to be a vote in DC Council?
I think that if it went to a markup, it could absolutely affect not just GW, but also American, Georgetown, other universities in the area. Because if it went to a markup in the DC City Council, it would force Congress to then either uphold or reject the decision completely. And it would force it to be a national issue.
Thank you so much, Morgan, and thank you all for watching. That's it for us here at Page 9, and we'll see you next week.